I thought I had it here. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this verse here from 1 Corinthians 14:11, and let's work it out together. Just from the appearance of it, let's have a little conversation. You can unmute yourself when you want to speak. Go ahead if anybody can. Let's take it line by line. There are 3 lines here. Let's go ahead and tell me what are some of the words that are familiar to you right now without looking at your concordance or without Googling anything for the moment. What are some of the words that you recognize?
Dunamin,
Dunamin. Okay, Jenny, what do you suppose that might?
dynamite, power.
Power. Okay, dunamin, power. It could be ability as well. Okay, good. Other words you recognize?
Phones,
Phones, yes.
voice.
Voice, of course, in English we have
Phonetic.
phonetics, we have phone,
Yes.
we have a telephone.
Yeah.
We have, yeah, okay, good. Other words?
Barbaros.
Barbaros. Okay, what do you figure? It's doubled up here in the second and the third line.
Means barbarian, rough. Barbarian.
Barbarian. Barbarian. Okay, barbaros. Yes, it's almost onomatopoeic, isn't it? It's like the word buzz, and so it's barbar, as in someone is speaking something like gibberish or something like that. Okay, what else? Other words? Good. Okay, let's take a look. Let's give a try to decode this. Anyone would like to give a try? I've given you the transliteration on top of the first line there. Go ahead. Anyone? So you've got here dunamin, power. And then you've got here phones, voice. Okay, let's take a look at the first line. The aeon there, if. That is familiar with. The aeon goes together with the may. You'll often see that. Aeon may, if not, therefore. Okay, I know the power, tain, dunamin. Therefore, if I do not know or perceive or interpret, right? Know there could be a number of things. The power.
Mic check. 1, 2. Mic check.
Yeah, we can hear you, Min. We can hear you clearly. If therefore I do not know the power of the sound, okay, it could also be voice. Okay, let's move on. Second line. Somebody would like to read that second line? Let's try.
Esomai to lalunte, barbaros.
Okay. Okay, we said that barbaros, barbarian. Any word that you recognize there? Any other words that you recognize there in that second line? What about lalunti? Lalunti.
Speaking,
Speaking, something lala. So
lala,
it's lala
lalong,
and
lala,
barba. Lala barba.
barbaros.
Yeah. So
Foreign sounding.
yes, exactly.
Foreign sounding.
Lala barbar. Lala barbar. It's speaking something unintelligible, isn't it? Huh? Okay. Let's look at this. Esomai. I will be to the one speaking, a foreigner or a barbarian. Okay, let's move on to the third line. What are some of the words that you recognize there?
Sky and
Okay, you want to read the whole line? Try to read the whole line.
sky ho lalon and moy barbaros.
Okay, so we've got barbaros again, foreigner or barbarian. What else do we have? And then we already established lala. So it's lalunti is the one speaking. So ha, lalon, en, emoy. What about the word emoy?
Me.
Something to me, something in me or to me. So, and the one, okay, to me. So he says, I will be a foreigner to the one speaking in the second line. Okay, let's take a look. Kai ha lalon en emoy barbaros. Barbaros.
Pastor Jared,
Yes.
barbarian. This is belong to violet, or we can say this is a foreigner.
Yes, that's right. Foreigner. That's right.
Thank you.
And the one speaking to me, a foreigner. So line 2 is saying, I will be a foreigner or a barbarian, and I will be the one, I will be a barbarian to the one speaking. Speaking what? The sound, the voice, right? In the first line. And in the third line, he says, and the one speaking to me will be a foreigner. Okay, now everyone turn to Corinthians 14:11. Okay, 1 Corinthians. Someone read 1 Corinthians 14:11, please.
I can try read.
Okay, yeah.
Yen un me edo ten dunamin tes phones. Sorry, am I reading
Yep,
right?
that's right. Correct, correct. Yes.
The whole thing?
Yep.
Okay.
So so ean un may would be the therefore, if not, then ido is I know. Okay, let's let me see if I can move this back again. Yeah, one more time. Hold on. Let's do it line by line. Ean un may ido tain dunamin tes phones. That's correct. That's what you read.
Okay.
And the meaning is if therefore not, literally if therefore not, I know the power of the sound or the voice. If I don't know, if therefore I don't understand the power of the sound. Okay. Keep going. Minan, keep going.
Okay. Asomai to lalunte barbaros.
Exactly. Esomai, I will be future tense to the one speaking, a foreigner or barbaric, a barbarian. Okay, keep going. Third line.
Kai ho lalon en emoy barbaros.
Good. So Kai is and the one speaking to me. So I will be, in the second line, he says, I will be to the one speaking. And then here in the third line, he says, and the one speaking will be. He doesn't say will be. He doesn't supply the future tense of be, but you can supply it in the third line. And to the one speaking will be supplied to me likewise, a barbarian. Okay. Now, somebody who has a modern version of 1 Corinthians 14:11 in English, can you read what it says, please? Any version, doesn't matter.
Pastor Jenny will try. NASB.
Okay.
First
go ahead.
Corinthians.
If then I do not grasp the meaning of what someone is saying, I am a foreigner to the speaker, and the speaker is a foreigner to me.
Okay. Thanks, Lars. What translation are you using, please?
And this is a King James.
Okay. All right. Because yours says grasp the meaning. Okay. So grasp the meaning in terms of, therefore, if I do not know, literally, I don't know the power of the sound. So that makes sense. Sorry, Jenny, you were going to read your version.
NASB.
Go ahead.
So if I do not know the meaning of the language, I will be unintelligible to the one who speaks, and the one who speaks will be unintelligible to me.
Okay, good. So this is a very good example of the meaning, just the plain meaning, which is linguistically speaking. So if somebody is speaking in a foreign language to you, let's say you don't understand Vietnamese or Thai, so you do not know the meaning of what they're saying, right? Or grasp the meaning of what they're saying because you don't know the language at all. Never heard it, first time hearing it. And when you are speaking and you don't have a translator, you are going to sound like a foreigner or a barbarian, right? And likewise, when that person, let's say the Vietnamese or the Thai person, is speaking to you, you will also have a problem. Okay, so let me see if I can get back. Yeah, okay. So does everyone understand the meaning here in terms of this this
Speaking in tongue.
Yes, the idea of speaking in tongues, yes, but linguistically, just any language that you don't know. Let's say I don't know Urdu, for example, and so let's say you're speaking to a Chinaman and he doesn't know Urdu, and so you don't know Chinese. So let's say a Pakistani doesn't know Chinese. So one will be like a chicken and the other one will be like a duck, as they say, proverbially. Okay, so
Yes.
you don't know what they're speaking, and I think this is the situation that we find ourselves in when it comes to lawlessness. Okay, so the default position of the believer in Christ is that of spirit-led living. And so now let's go over to see this language that we can take a look at. Let me try to share my screen again. Let's take a look at this idea of the barbaric spirit overcome. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. So let's take a look. All right. So here's the modern translation. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, or I don't grasp what you're saying, because I don't know your language, I shall be unto him that speaketh a barbarian, right? And he that speaketh to me shall be a barbarian unto me. So that's the basic idea, that the spirit of Zion is able to decode and define the truth that stands behind the barbarian spirit that speaks gibberish and nonsense. The world, sin, and the devil speaks sounds that are gibberish to our ear. And what the Elijah fathers could not accomplish, the elisha-sons will fulfill and win the double portion for generations to come. Okay, we were talking last week, from a case study from the defeat of Goliath in 1 Samuel 17. And I'll just review a little bit, and then we can see this principle being played out. The defeat of Goliath is as an archetype of evil, meaning this. Remember we're talking about the spirit of Babel, Mammon, the spirit of Mammon, Babylon, the ancient serpent, and the spirit and man of lawlessness. Okay, that causes a curse in the land. So remember we were talking about the in 1 Samuel 17, where the challenge was given to challenge was given by Goliath. And of course, David is his rising to power or rising to fame was dependent on his execution on the word of his Elijah. Elisha here, I'm using it rather loosely in terms of Elijah here being his Saul. Okay, so here David is the Elisha son, and Saul is the Elijah father. And of course, Goliath says, "Give me a man." And so this is not wrong. This is not wrong. This is the correct way to fight, given the terrain where there was a valley and a river between the two, and any side that mounted an attack, who took the initiative to mount the attack, would have been defeated automatically. So there was no point in the two armies fighting. So you would just get these two men to wrestle it out, and the winner would take the winner takes all. Okay, so it was important that this challenge was given to the Elijah fathers, who were all mounted, all the troops, all the seasoned warriors were on standby together with Saul and amassed on one side. And they heard the challenge, but they did nothing about it for a period of time, okay, until the visit of David to the valley of Elah. Okay, then, of course, David says, "Your servant will go," in verse 32, 1 Samuel 17, verse 32. So here we see the obedience of the elisha-sons. Okay, this is talking, in this case, is David. He's the son of Jesse. And of course, all of Jesse's sons are together with Saul at the war front, at the front lines, but none of them can move because none of them will go to fight the Goliath, right? So the obedience of Elisha to the word of Elijah always triggers the next big move of God. Okay, so it's key here. It's dependent upon the obedience. Your servant will go, he says. Okay, next. In verse 33, David gets close to Saul. So David gets close enough to Saul to hear his heartbeat. And what is the heartbeat of Saul? In verse 33, "You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." Okay, so that's the heartbeat. Saul is basically saying, you can't fight this guy because you're only a young person, and this Goliath has been a warrior since youth, right? So what are you talking about? You don't have any experience. All right, so there's that understanding of Elisha's son. Okay, so can everybody see the screen there? Point number 3. Somebody would like to read point number 3 on the screen there.
It's different in our screen, Pastor. Only in page 1.
Okay, maybe let's try that again. Let's try that again one more time.
It's
Can you
okay
see
now.
that?
Yes,
Can you see that?
Pastor. Yes,
Okay.
we can see.
Okay. Did you see this one? Okay. let me go through again. So, Nizal, you want to read point number 1?
It's number 3. We're in number 3, Pastor. Elisha-sons.
Ooh, okay. How come?
Okay.
Hang on, there's something wrong then.
Now it is here.
It's number 1 already. But
Okay. Can you read this one?
yes,
What?
Pastor.
Okay, go
Number
ahead.
1. Number
Mhm.
1. Excellence of Elisha is dependent on his execution of the word of Elijah.
Okay, so read back to me the understanding here about the challenge given by Goliath and the rise of David. How is this true in our lives? This first point. Anybody? Can you see the connection between David being the Elisha of Saul?
Pastor, I'll just try. I think it's about Elisha was mentored by Elijah. So whatever Elisha saw from Elijah, uh, he what do you call that? He just follows Elijah. When it comes to David, his training in the field was the reason for his success when he fight Goliath. The excellence of his execution in his prior training with these wild animals, he used this in the execution to fight for Goliath. So with Elisha, Pastor, his victory and his time was also dependent based on what Elijah has told him, on the anointing that he passed on also to Elisha.
Right. But there was a command given, wasn't it, by the
Yes, Pastor.
King Saul? So what was the battle of Elah about? What was the command given? And who issued the challenge? Okay, let me see if you can see the screen again. Can you see that screen? The point there? Let's go to the second point. Can you read this point, the second point here?
We are in number 1, Pastor.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Pastor.
Can you see it now? Can you see the point number 2 here?
Yes, Pastor.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Somebody would like to read point number 2? Yeah, just read it. So, obedience of the Elisha's sons to the word of Elijah fathers triggers the next big move of God.
Okay, so how was the next big move of God triggered here, in this case here in 1 Samuel 17? What triggered it? You remember both armies were on both sides of the valley, right? Anybody like to answer that? What was the trigger for the revival? The forward movement. They were stuck, right, on both sides. They couldn't
Yes.
move.
David said, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him."
Yes,
No one should lose heart.
that's right. Why would they lose heart? Why were they losing heart?
They saw
Maybe
that Goliath was so big and they were just small pastor. They're
Yes, because
thinking about their weapon is a sword, pastor, and Goliath is very tall. His arms are long. Before you can hit him, you were already cut off. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Definitely,
Yeah.
there was a challenge. Mhm.
yes,
Pastor, I
and
think
he's the champion, Goliath.
Mhm.
David has risen up to the challenge to uplift the name of God, not only among the Israelites, but against those Philistines. He had risen the challenge. Like Isaiah, when God asked, "Whom will I send?" Isaiah said, "Here I am."
Send
Right.
me.
Can you see there's a connection between David
verse 10.
as an Elisha son and Saul as an Elijah father? Can you see the connection here? Can anybody explain
Yes,
what is
yes,
what's the connection?
there's a connection because, as we know, Saul was the first king of Israel, and after his leadership, David was the next.
Yeah.
And in the prophet Elijah, he was the anointed prophet, and after his is Elisha, the successor, and he received the double portion of anointing.
Exactly.
Pastor,
Yes, Jenny.
I think that the challenge is big because Goliath was very big and with all the weapons very huge. But here what we see in verse 32 is that the Israelites also have a lot of fear, but David rose up to the challenge and to the occasion that he avails himself to go. That's why he says, "Your servant will go." Whereas Saul was sitting back and waiting for somebody to go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, he gave the command to move forward, but no one could go forward. Very good. All right, let's take a look at the third one. So David needs to get close enough to Saul, right? So elisha-sons need to get close enough to the heartbeat of the Elisha fathers. The fathers, so that you can hear what is the fathers, what is it that the fathers are trying to say? What are the problems that the fathers are facing, right? And what is it that David hears? What is it that is so touching about verse 33? You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth.
Saul has a defeated spirit, right there from the start of the battle.
Okay, can you define defeated spirit?
When the challenge was issued by Goliath, and the name of God is being defied daily.
Yep.
Nobody appeared before him to take the challenge, even though that the two armies cannot start a fight. That's why Goliath said, just give me a man. And then therefore David rose up to say he will go, but Saul has no faith in the small boy to compare him with a well-seasoned warrior.
Right. You can't go. That's what Saul said. That was the heart of the father, right? The heartbeat of Saul, the Elijah father. He basically says, you're not equipped. You're not ready to battle, for battle. And yet, unless he went as an obedient son, despite the reservations of King Saul, then unless he went, then things would still be at an impasse. There would be no forward movement. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Elisha's receive the mantle of Elijah if they are given to see the spirit of Elijah. Now, what was the original spirit of King Saul? How would you describe? I know that Saul comes out looking as a pretty bad character and in the end commits suicide and so on and so forth. But he was a king. He was the first king of Israel. What was the king supposed to do? Was to protect the people, right? That's the spirit of Elijah. It's the spirit of the leadership. It's leadership spirit, right? To lead, to protect the people from Goliath. So
I think, can I speak, Pastor? I think I've also seen in the character of Saul that he was a courageous king because he was willing to give his life for his people. Although he came from a very small tribe of Benjamin from Gabaa, but as a leader, although he came from a small tribe, he gave his best for his nation, for the nation of Israel. And one thing I've also seen when he faced David, he has no trust on David because that was the first time they met. He didn't know who is David. He didn't know that David is skilled man and trained for many years as a shepherd. And he didn't also know how brave David was and how the power of God was with David. So he is not so sure if David could be trusted to fight for Goliath. But with the encouraging words of David, he was permitted to fight because he said he was able to fight the lion and the bear. So he was allowed to fight for Israel.
Exactly. We're not saying that Saul was perfect, and no father is perfect. Show me a perfect dad. There's no perfect dad. But the spirit of the dad, the spirit of the Elijah father, is still for the best of the family, and in this case, the nation of Israel, right? That's why he tried to put the armor on the boy, right? He wanted to protect the boy. Okay, but then David couldn't walk in that. He received the mantle, but not the armor. It's not about the armor of the Elijah. It's about the mantle, the authority. He finally received the go ahead. All right, let's take the next step. So there's a a tenacious determination, isn't it, of the son to follow the father into their call and vision. Can you see that? In the same way that Elisha followed the prophet Elijah, the elder. Okay, you can see it as Elisha's sons are like the young lions. The young lions, they're part of the same pride of lions. But there are the older lions. They are the old lions, okay, or the lions, the father lions. And these senior lions are at an impasse. They are unable to solve this problem. Why? Why is that? Why is it that they were unable? Why is it that they were unable to solve the problem? Okay, it's because they hadn't recognized that in the midst of the lion pride, there was a young lion. His name was David, and he had a special gift with the sling and the slingshot. Okay. So next, it is not the impact of the mission, nor the power of anointing that captivates Elisha. Okay, so it wasn't how great the war was to fight in the war and so on and so forth. It was the fact that someone was insulting the name of God, and he saw that this insult or this opposition was actually a barbarian language. This word, this sword and spear and javelin, it was the language of war against the name of God. And that's really what set David apart. He wasn't wanting to play games with sword to sword and spear to spear and javelin to javelin and power to power and impact to impact and strength to strength. It wasn't about that. It was about he didn't want to play games with the enemy. He didn't want to see how close could he get to Goliath. He wanted to take him down. Okay, and that sets the Elisha sons or the young lions apart from the older lions. Sometimes the older lions, they come to want to play games. They want to perpetuate the structures. Actually, we don't want to do that. We cannot be doing that, but we find ourselves, that's how we get ourselves into a rut. That means nothing moves, nothing changes, and so the young lion, in this case, the young lions, they're hungry for food from God. Okay, so rather it is his heart affection and longing to see through what his father began and could only complete part way. Okay, so all of the young lions, they have this in common. All right, you think about the next generation, the young lions, the Elishas of God. Who are the Elishas of God? Do you have Elishas in your midst? Do we have Elishas in our midst who are training? Who are the young lions? Do you see? Can you call them out? Do you recognize them? Are you somehow afraid that maybe they will take over your position? And then what will happen to us? It's true, isn't it? There is something going on here, right? We're going to see this in the story of Deborah and Barak and Jael, okay, in just a moment. But I just wanted to finish off this conversation about David and Goliath. And can you see something else here? There is a multi-generational task. There is a multi-generational task. Saul can only bring Daddy Saul can only bring the mission so far. But young lion, David, and of course, Jonathan as well. But David was able to see the real heart of the king because he was the king. He was the next king. He was supposed to be the next king. He was anointed as the next king. Okay, so it was a multi-generational task. So in other words, when if you go over, I think it's 1 Kings 19, I'm not sure, or is it 2 Kings chapter 4? Remember when Elijah, he went up in a chariot of fire, and the horses of fire came to collect him. Remember, his mantle fell down, his prayer shawl or his mantle, prophetic mantle came down, and who is it that picked up? It was Elisha, wasn't it? And then when Elisha struck the waters parted. Do you remember that? The waters parted. And then he said, where is the God of Elijah? That's what he said. Where is the God of Elijah? Right? He appealed and said, where is the God of Elijah? And the truth is, where is the Elisha of God? Where is the Elijah of God or the Elishas of God? I think that's, the young lions are always asking, where is the God of Elijah? Where is the power? Show me the power, right? But actually, what is God saying? He's asking, where is the Elishas of God? And I think we can ask, we know where the Elijah of God is he's in heaven. He's gone up on the chariot of fire. But the real search is for succession. Who is going to take your place? Who has the Lord anointed to be the next leader or leaders, or the next the person to carry the revival into the next generation? Do you get what I'm trying to say here? We're all senior leaders here, are we not? Surely you have been thinking about succession planning, right? And I think it's a powerful thought that the task is multi-generational. It's not just one generation that needs to do this. There's only so much that Saul can do, but there's also something of the Elishas of God. The Elishas must do also. Let's have a little conversation on that, and different ones. Your comments, Pastor Pascal, for example, want to come in on this discussion? Go ahead. Or anyone who has any thoughts whatsoever.
Our chief and master task is we prepare a leader for next generation. We should prepare our end time leaders. This is our responsibility. We don't think ourselves we will always be a leader here, but we should prepare a a leader for next generation, for end times. And we focus on that. Thank you.
Yes, Nicole.
Pastor, it's just like passing on the baton to the young gen. So also in the college, maybe all of us here are, you know, we are the, what do you call that? The learners here. So we should also learn how Pastor Gerard does everything, what he wants us to do. Likewise, for us, we should also train whoever our students out of this college, maybe our young young people in the church, something like that. I view it at that. They are the Elishas the Lord is looking for, and also us.
Good. Let me ask you this question. Do you see yourself as an Elijah, or do you see yourself as an Elisha? Do
As
you see
Elisha,
yourself?
Pastor Elisha.
I think that's a problem. I think that's the root of the problem in every context that I've seen, in every leadership context. If you see yourself as the young lion and you are over 45 years old, then
Pastor, because in this group, Pastor, I am not a pastor. That's
no, no,
why
no,
I see myself.
well, no. I think that too is a problem, because you should see yourself as an ordained minister of the gospel rather than your identity wrapped up in your job or your profession, which is also a topic for another situation. Let me ask this question honestly to everyone. Do you see yourself as an Elijah father or an Elijah mother?
Now, in my case, I see myself as both. I am an Elijah to my community and a group of pastors that trusted me as their mentor. But I have my own mentor to keep on growing and to check my way of serving the Lord. So this is actually a discipleship across New Testament and Old Testament. This is about discipleship, and it is showing to us that discipleship is not a program, it is not a scheduled event, it is a life sharing or imparting of life to from one person to another, therefore producing kingdom people of Jesus.
For me,
Mother?
Pastor, I'm a Elisha in this King's College because I have more learn here, and I pass on my as a Elisha to the church in the community. So Elisha here, willing to open myself for learning and receiving something, and I'm become the Elijah.
Okay, I think we lost Jeanette there because of the signal there. Other comments? So Pastor Pascal said that he sees himself as both Elijah, Elisha. Jeanette says that in the college, she sees herself as an Elisha, as a young lion or lioness, rather than an Elijah mother. Other comments and thoughts?
Being an Elijah, I see myself to my assistant pastor. The things that I've learned during the time that I was in a training ground and as a leader in the church, it is my desire and my prayer that whatever God has entrusted me, it must be also to my daughter. So right now, I see that my daughter is trained well, and I have trust to her that the God who was with me will also be the God who will be with her the rest of her life as a leader in the future.
Okay,
That's
thank
all.
you. Thank you, Rowena. Has it occurred to you that your daughter's work will exceed your work? Has it occurred to you that whatever that you have done is nothing compared to...
Honestly speaking, every time she was assigned as a preacher, there were fresh revelations that I've never encountered from God. And sometimes, honestly speaking, I am learning from her. There's something different how God deal with her in her ministry. And oftentimes, every time he preached in the pulpit, there were times that I really cried because I've been touched by the anointing and the power of God that I felt in her.
Okay, good.
That's all.
What was the reaction? What was the attitude of Saul when, with respect to David? As we know in the story, later on in the story. He's throwing spears at David. He's hunting David down. What was the dominant attitude of Saul?
Envy.
Envy. Mm-hmm.
Jealousy.
Jealousy. Very good. Would you like to elaborate on that? Anybody? Go ahead and elaborate on that.
He's an arrogant.
Yes, go ahead. Elizabeth, what makes you say that he was arrogant?
Because I feel he's the highest, no one to compare him, and because he was jealous with David, and always put down. Yes, he was the one. So feel he was arrogant king. That's why yes, disqualified and being a king. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good. Other. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep, Tracy.
In chapter 18, verse 6, I would like to read it. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out from all the town of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing with joy, full songs with tambourines and lutes. As they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands. That's why he became so jealous and he became very angry against David.
Good.
So yeah.
Oh, and that's recorded in the scriptures.
And also, Pastor, Saul is jealous because David is even he is small, but he is terrible.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually Saul was a very tall. He was taller than everybody, all the soldiers. He was head and shoulders above everybody else. Can you imagine this very tall king is now confronted by a taller Goliath? So who among men should go and fight Goliath?
David,
No, in the natural, it should be Saul. He's the king and he's the tallest among everybody and he's the
Yeah.
leader,
yes,
right?
he should
And-
go.
And he should go, but do you know what? He would have been killed because he's trying to fight fire with fire. This kind could not come down except through the Spirit of God. And he was quite right. And in giving permission for David to go. And in so doing, he established a principle for us. The principle is that the Elijah father can only take the nation so far. Let me translate that. The senior pastor can only bring the church so far. Do you believe that?
Yes,
Think
Pastor.
think about that. Well, I mean, Nazal, it's let's hear from the other pastors. Do we we often think so in Saul's giving of permission to the little boy, he was establishing the principle of the Elijah-Elisha connection. And I think this is a very special heartbeat of Heavenly Father, that there is an intergenerational task. It's not just on your shoulder as a senior leader. In fact, we would do well to understand this principle here and not become like a Saul to our Davids. Okay? It sounds easy to pronounce or enunciate this, but it's not so easy. Other comments, please? I think before we go on to Judges 4, perhaps tomorrow we can lay down the story of David and Goliath in this for the moment, and go on to Deborah and Barak tomorrow. But before we close, does anybody have any other comments about this? Go ahead.
Thing as
Just
an
one thing I
Elijah,
would like to add.
we must
That might be related.
recognize those giftings and skills, characteristics of those people around us, so that we could nurture them, help them, and put them in the situation where they could grow and develop those giftings so that they could serve the Lord better. I have been pioneering church for about 3 decades. At first, on those churches, it seems I am doing all. I am the worship leader. I am the guitarist. I am the teacher of the kids. I preach. I visited. I evangelize, all those things. So it's it's very needed to train anyone who comes, and I must recognize who and what kind of their giftings they have. And thank God the development comes, and I thank God that if there's someone who was trained and became much better guitarist than me, much better worship leader than me, much better teacher to the kids and the fellow youths and adults than me, and a better preacher than me, I'm so happy. I could go to the background and let them do what they must do. And I still, like here in we are in King's College. Now I am on the receiving side. Uh, I get so many insight teaching from our dear Pastor Gerard, and those speakers he is inviting. We are we are still learning. We have still a lot to learn being a servant of God.
Okay, we have about 25 minutes left. Minan, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, just something I found interesting regarding Saul and David. Actually, Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin, and in Judges it says about Benjamin that some of them were left-handed, or each one of them could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. So actually, the slingshot throwing anointing came on the tribe of Benjamin. And I'm not sure, it doesn't say that Saul actually did use a slingshot, but I think it would have been strange for him to see someone from the tribe of Judah doing it. And David, not being of the tribe of Benjamin, would probably have had to learn it. And got so well at doing it. If Saul was jealous about anything else, he might have been jealous of that as well. Like, what on earth is this? That's my anointing. What are you doing? And he's so tall. Maybe he thought, you just use brute force or whatever. I mean, that's conjecture, lah. But that's just a point to bring up, because I notice it's not. Yeah.
Very
Okay,
good.
that's it.
Yeah, I remember that scripture as well about the people being ambidextrous,
Oh,
or
yeah.
being able to
Left and right
sling
hand.
left and right hand, yeah, and hit, and hit you within a hair's breadth.
Yeah, that's right.
Just
That's
to,
what it says.
I think, just to scare you, really, or wake you up if you're sleeping or something like that. They could use a sling, like, if the shepherd is sleeping on duty, and then just shoot at you a stone, and then just miss you just by a hair's breadth, just to wake you up. That's all, not to hurt you. But they were that good. It's like those knife throwers, they can throw the knife exactly just near your ear, but miss your ear or your head or something like that, just for entertainment's sake. But that's how skillful they were. And you're right. If Saul, why should Saul be surprised at all that this method? And perhaps that's the reason why he let him go ahead and take off the armor. It's not going to help him. He doesn't need the armor. Yeah. Good point. Come, let's have a little conversation further.
Pastor Jared, as a leader, he would be happy that he helped me. As a leaders, he should be happy that they would help me and support me in battlefield. And he should prepare him and focus on that. that he would be my next leader. But he has a jealous spirit, and he thought I will be always king. So he keep his leadership one side, and he only follow the David 10 or 12 years. Sometimes leaders keep their skills aside and focus one side, but it's not their responsibility. So as we are going in last days, we concentrations on that. We focus on that, what we are doing, what is our behavior to our youngers. What we are a good example for our youngers or bad example for our youngers. We focus on that. Thank you.
Rowena Law.
Yeah, so for the past, I had been like involved in a lot of conflicts between leaders and members. And even I remember when I was younger, I was supposed to be sent to a conference in another part of the Philippines, and it takes a flight to go to that place for the conference. And so many members actually wanted me to go. They chose me to go, but our pastor didn't want me to go. And during the meeting, I heard that he did not want me to go because apparently I'm still young. Yeah, those were the things that he said. Okay, but anyway, as I grew up, I'd always been in this kind of situation where, um, yeah, people would always undermine. I never wanted to, it was never my intention to take authority or, you know, yeah, it was never my intention to take the authority of a leader or a pastor. It was just um, people see, okay, maybe people have seen that there is something in me that's why they wanted me to attend to this kind of conferences. Okay, but anyway, um, there were questions as well. There were people who were asking me like, how do you feel about this? Like it's like they wanted to incite in me that I should be angry uh, to this leader or to this pastor. But I always believe, okay, as a David, I always believe that David then was not actually looking at Saul as an enemy. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to tell myself also, that no, they are not my enemies. My leaders are not my enemies. My pastors are not my enemies. Okay, but I've always believed that whether we accept it or not, Saul was David's stepping stone. Saul was David's stepping stone. Okay, he will never get into that kingship if not for Saul. So that's what I also want to apply to myself. And yeah, somehow I still I'm still at that stage where um yeah, especially if my pastors are if pastors are young, you know, and yeah, it I wouldn't blame them, or I would not take it against them if there is anything that they feel, if there is any insecurity or jealousy that they feel about me. But I will never say it that way. It will never come to me that, oh, it's because he's jealous of me, or oh, maybe he has some insecurities. It's the people who say it to me. But I would always say that, okay, but he is not my enemy, or he is not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I just wanted to share.
I think here in this forum or in this college, we have a good mix of young and old, young lions, as well as old lions, and in between. But I thought we would just take a day off today to have this discussion, because I think it is important to have this discussion, and see the application of the principle of being both, as Pastor Pascal said, being both an Elijah, as well as an Elisha, in the sense that everyone is going to be looking out for the next generation. In fact, perhaps you could say that is one of the primary calls for the Elijahs of God, the Elijah fathers and Elijah mothers, to be looking out for the Elijah sons and Elijah daughters, Elisha sons and Elisha daughters. In the same way that Saul made a mistake, didn't he? As the Elijah father of the nation, he should have recognized very quickly that the son of Jesse was an Elisha son of Israel. And he was, and instead of nurturing that and developing that, as what Pastor Jobert says, we need to develop this in the young. He reacted to it, and he wanted to kill him instead of. It's like what Israel needed was a new heart, and David was a man after God's heart. But instead of having a heart transplant, Saul rejected the heart. The body rejected the heart and wanted to kill the heart and take the heart out from the body. But God was giving Israel a new heart, because we know that David was really an eleemosynary, an Elios genius, eleemosynary genius. Comments? Other comments, please go ahead.
Yes, Pastor.
Yes, Susheta, go ahead.
Okay. Shalom to everyone, and I appreciated that you had prayed for me, and I'm well today. Thank you, everyone. And about Elijah fathers and elisha-sons, I just wanted to make a point here that Elijah fathers should not be always right, always correct. Like Saul was always, he was not always right or correct. But Elijah's sons, they need to understand the call of God in Elijah father. As David, he could understand the call of God in Saul, and therefore, though Saul was after David to kill him, but David, though he got enough opportunities to kill Saul, he did not, because he understood the call of God upon Saul. And Saul was jealous because he felt himself inferior and insecure. And always, often it happens to leaders that when they see, they teach to the younger generation that they should be also be like them. But when they become like them or more than them, then they feel inferior and insecure. And of course, sometimes it is natural, but we also need to understand, as Elijah fathers, we need to understand in 21st century, the Elisha's sons will be more than the Elijah father. And that is the fact, and we need to understand it, and we need to accept it. And so if the Elisha sons will be more superior to the Elijah fathers, then we should not feel inferior. Rather, we encourage them to move forward. What extent God wanted to use them, let God use them. Yes.
Thank you, Susheta. And indeed, good to hear your voice. And I think if I were Satan, I would be afraid of that voice. You have a very dangerous voice for the enemy. And I think you know, when you shout at the devil, I think even Surjit will get frightened a little bit. Surjit, come into the conversation, please, and tell us a little bit about succession planning. You have just recently let go of a position that you were holding for 7 years as the principal, and then 18 years in total. What tell us a little bit about the passing of the baton? How was that done? How did you feel about it?
During my 7 years of giving leadership to a big seminary and passing it baton, it's a joy one time, but at the time another way it's a challenge. But during my leadership, what I have seen is encouraging others, developing others, always giving priority how others can be well equipped for better purpose, for leadership. And Sucheta is sitting beside me, so she is eyewitness of that. Sometimes she used to tell me, okay, you do it. And then I tell her, okay, no, let others learn. Let me give a chance. Let me give a way for them. So position is not permanent, but once we impact in the life of others, they will remember us in their lifetime. So that's what we have done it. As like equipping others, given the priority. So that is my short experience of my leadership.
Yeah, as a professors in the Bible college, we have seen that more Elishas are more influenced and became more powerful in the ministry than us Elijah fathers, because some of the Elisha sons are now they are in USA, in different parts of the world, and whereas we are struggling also to survive, sometimes we feel.
And in fact, they feel grateful for that. And of course, we are not rich in financially, but we are rich because we have developed Elisha's sons. That's what we feel it.
Well, I also wonder whether modalities comes into play, because those with a more pro-epistemic leadership, born leader component within them, I think they would be harder, much harder for them to let go than the others, because for the other modal excellencies, we lead is not because we are born leaders. We lead because of our genius. We lead because of our skill, and we lead because of our archetype. Whereas, for the pro-epistemic leader, he leads or she leads because she was born a leader. And I think probably that may be more difficult to pass the baton on. And we've seen examples of this in the Olympic Games, where top teams from the US and from China and from France and all over the world, when one runner passes the other, he begins to run and pass the next, the Elijah is running past at speed, at velocity, and if he doesn't slow down, the Elisha, he cannot catch up. He cannot accelerate to that speed because he's coming at velocity. And so the Elijah has to slow down enough so that the Elisha can get up to speed, and then the baton is then firmly placed in the hand of the next runner. And I think that whole 4x4 relay race concept is very powerful especially if you can develop a core leadership team of mutual, competencies where everybody knows how to do what you do and is able to even bring it out. Like David, he brought the whole game. He was a game changer. He brought the whole warfare game to the next level by introducing missiles, and not just through sword fights like what they used to do. He introduced another concept of warfare, which is through slingshots and rockets, that sort of a thing. So any other thoughts? Perhaps Dr. Sujit can be persuaded to perhaps pause. We could pause the play button here and ask him to share a little bit about leadership transition. Susheta, do you think he would be inclined to be able to share some pointers for the Elijah fathers to remember when it comes to the Elisha sons or daughters?
Yes, Pastor. Tomorrow he will be doing. Someone just called him, so he had gone.
Okay, so yeah, perhaps we can give the time to Sujit to share a little bit on his journey, but specifically using the same metaphor of Elijah and Elisha's to learn how best we can execute this transition. But of course, we can, not forgetting, of course, our goal. We will still continue through the book of Revelation, but I thought perhaps giving the fact that we are in that place where so many things can go wrong in this transition, it would be good to have some principles. Perhaps Sujit can share from his experience of handing over to the next generation, and then trying to avoid some of the pitfalls that the enemy, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can actually learn from the past. And anybody who has any other experiences, thank you, Rowena Law, for sharing that incident that happened when in your youth. I think there is good cause to continue in this area. I've actually made a recording of this sermon that I preached on yesterday, and it's in the Discord. It's in the Learning Resource Center, and perhaps I can pull it out and put it in the lounge so everybody can see that and prepare yourself. Listen to that message and see how the enemy tries to use leadership transition as one, way to divide the church or confuse the church or, yeah. So does anybody have any final closing thoughts? If not, we can lay it down for today, and then we'll come back. I'll put that video in the lounge in the Learning Resource Center. Good to see Susheta back in action. Hope to hear from Surjit tomorrow. And at the same time, if everyone can look through Judges chapter 4 and 5, the story of the hammer of Jael would be good. Okay, so shalom, and we'll see you all tomorrow, same time, same channel. Remember, you're more in the bosom of the Father. Let's remain in the bosom of the Father, and let's remember not to depart